Have you ever thought about boundaries in marriage as just another word for restrictions or felt a twinge of negativity at its mention? Well, I'm here to flip that script and open your eyes to a truth that many couples discover too late. Healthy boundaries aren't about limiting your relationship, they're the secret ingredient to making it thrive like never before. We're diving into how setting boundaries in your marriage with love and respect can transform it from surviving to absolutely flourishing. Stay tuned as we unravel the misconceptions and guide you through establishing boundaries that protect, empower, and nurture your marriage. We're diving in to how setting boundaries can transform your marriage. The purpose of boundaries is a good place to start. The purpose of boundaries, think of it this way, think of it like a garden with a beautiful fence around it. The fence isn't there for decoration, it serves a purpose. It protects the garden from being trampled on. It ensures what's inside can flourish and grow in a secure environment. Similarly, in marriage, boundaries are like this fence. They aren't they're not barriers to keep your spouse out, but protective measures to guard your heart, your dignity, and the sanctity of your marriage covenant. When we set boundaries motivated by love and commitment, we create a safe space for our relationship to thrive, rooted in the fertile soil of mutual respect and understanding. Let's explore a little bit deeper about um, understanding marriage boundaries. So first, we'll talk about internal boundaries. The definition of internal boundaries is that they relate to how you respond to your spouse's actions, without allowing their behavior to dictate your peace or your emotional state. Biblical foundation, we think of Proverbs 4:23. It reminds us to guard our heart above all else. It is the source of life. Setting internal boundaries means taking responsibility for our reactions and our emotions. As an example, we can choose not to be offended when we're disrespected, recognizing that it's the other person's issue and they're having a hard time or they're struggling. Not ours. It's not our issue. That's Ephesians 4:2. Maintaining peace and not retaliating when faced with criticism. That reflects Jesus' teaching to turn the other cheek in Matthew 5:39. And we also want to talk about external boundaries. So, external boundaries are defined by the actions you take in response to certain behaviors from your spouse that are unacceptable or harmful. So here we look to Matthew 18, verse 15 to 17, and Jesus teaches us to address sins against us directly and lovingly, a principle that applies to setting external boundaries. So here's an example. If your spouse raises their voice, choose to leave the discussion temporarily until you can both engage calmly. Thinking of James 1, verse 19 and 20. Establishing a mutual agreement that disrespectful behaviors like eye rolling are not acceptable in your communication. Again, looking at Ephesians 4:29. Now, here's the important part that builds on that. You have to make expectations into agreements. You can't just expect something from your spouse and not communicate it or not agree with them on it. So we have to transform unspoken expectations into explicit agreements, and that can help prevent misunderstandings that create a lot of unnecessary and unhelpful conflict. We think Amos 3:3, where it asks, "Can two walk together except that they be agreed?" It highlights the importance of making expectations into mutual agreements in marriage. So if you think about applying this, communicate openly about your expectations and work together to turn them into agreements. Do this when you're not already in an argument. Do this in a time of peace and calm when level heads prevail. When an agreement is broken, address it calmly and constructively. Seek to understand and to forgive. Think in Colossians 3:13. Here are some practical steps for establishing boundaries. Pray together. Start by praying for wisdom and guidance as you work on setting boundaries. Thinking James 1:5. 2. Identify needs and limits. Discuss what you both need to feel respected and loved in your marriage. 3. Communicate clearly. Use I statements to express how certain behaviors affect you, avoiding blame. Don't say to your spouse, "You make me feel unloved." Say, "When you do this, when you talk to me that way, I feel unloved." It's an I statement. It's not saying they're wrong, but it's communicating clearly how you feel about it. And fourth, review and adjust. Regularly review your boundaries and how you are both executing them in your marriage, and ensure that they're serving your marriage well. So I want to share with you a couple of examples. Here's some common examples. This is not comprehensive. Respectful communication, agreeing to avoid name calling, yelling, or derogatory remarks, even in heated moments. Instead, opt for a timeout until both parties can speak calmly. Personal time, acknowledge the importance of personal space and hobbies outside the marriage, ensuring both partners can recharge and maintain their individuality. Final decisions, financial decisions. Setting a financial boundary where large purchases or financial decisions over a certain amount are discussed and agreed upon together. Family in-law dynamics, establishing guidelines for how to handle visits and interactions with extended family, ensuring both spouses feel their boundaries are respected. Social media, agree on what is acceptable to share about your relationship online, respecting each other's privacy and comfort levels. You could also agree on when you're having a conversation at a certain time, not to be on social media distracted while you're talking to each other to ensure quality time and focus on each other. Physical intimacy is one that really helps a lot of people if they can talk about boundaries and expectations, discussing preferences, comfort levels regarding physical affection and intimacy, privately and in public, respecting each other's privacy and comfort levels. Uh, it really ensures both partners feel respected and heard. Parenting styles, aligning on parenting approaches and discipline strategies, agreeing to present a united front in front of the children, handling conflict, commit to resolve disputes privately and not in front of children or others, and never resorting to the silent treatment as a form of punishment. Time management, balancing time between work, family, and marriage, ensuring that neither partner feels neglected nor overburdened. Spiritual practices, so respect each other's spiritual and religious practices as you pursue God, finding common ground to nurture spiritual growth together, both seeking God together. So these are not exhaustive examples, they're just a starting point for discussions on boundaries. So with that, if the idea of establishing these boundaries seems overwhelming, remember the path to a strong, fulfilling marriage is a journey that's taken one step at a time. It's about finding balance, respecting each other's needs, and growing together in love and commitment. If you're finding this challenging, or if you see certain issues as insurmountable, you can't get past them, you're not alone. Reach out to us for help or visit our website, solidrockmarriagerestoration.com, to discover how you can rebuild your marriage foundation on principles of love, respect, and mutual understanding. Let us help guide you towards a marriage that not only survives, but thrives in the grace of God's love. I hope this has been helpful. May the grace and peace of our Lord Jesus be with you.